Okay, good afternoon, everybody. You're all very welcome to this, our second session this week. Today we're going to look at remote teaching with the interactive H5P component, which is a recent enough addition to Canvas, and hopefully a lot of you will see the value in maybe using it as a formative assessment tool. I have with me Lauren Maher, a colleague here. So Lauren is going to take you through some of the kind of the practical stuff in the minute. Thanks, Lauren. And we're maybe just going to get started by giving a session overview, talking about some examples and then going from there. So I'll turn off my video for the moment and I might just give you a bit of an introduction there. As with other sessions, you can use the Q&A feature if you have questions, or we'll use the chat at the end as well. And we can enable microphones and stuff there at the end as well. Okay, so the first thing to do is just look at the session today. So we're going to look at using H5P in Canvas, where to find it basically, and looking at a few examples. Lauren is going to look at layout and activity content types. So they're basically two types of content you can create in Canvas H5P. They're layout based or activity based. And Lauren's also going to take you through creating a few different types of interactions, including interactive video. And then the last bit will be looking at reporting on activities. So without further ado, I guess we'll get on with it. So before we begin, there's one really useful resource at this URL here. So I'll just open it up in the browser. And that is a whole section on our site called Designing Interactive Learning Content. That whole sort of series of articles points to our knowledge base, where you'll find articles on pretty much every content type that you'll find in H5P. And also then you will find some additional resources around reporting. So we'll be adding to this as H5P adds any content types. But one useful place to look for content types in a sort of a bird's eye view is h5p.org. So if you go to this site, h5p.org, and there's an examples and downloads area, you're actually going to find all of the content types here and an example of all of them in action. So if I click into any of these, I'll actually be able to see one of the content types in action and be able to interact with them and so on. There are, as I say, two different types of content. As I said, the H5P puts it as content types. They are activity and layout, and Lauren will give you a bit more on that in a minute. Every one of you guys has a license, like a pro license for H5P. It's embedded within Canvas, so you don't have to go to h5p.org. I'll show you where to go in a minute. But also, I suppose it being integrated within Canvas, you have the benefit of it being able to be used across modules. So you could create interactions and you can pull them into different modules. And the reporting element then is useful if you're looking for sort of examples of who completed activities and where you might want to add scores and so on. You can actually see the scores that students got. One thing that I would highlight is H5P really is only meant as a formative assessment tool and not a summative one. I suppose the reason for that is that we're all sort of looking at summative assignments as being things that go into your grade book. And that you can have a log of and you can communicate with your students that way. Really, I suppose when we're looking at H5P, we're looking at it more for knowledge checks, for pre-training, for post-training. And the real benefit of it is that it gives you some sort of a way of creating more interactive asynchronous content for your learners that they can engage with outside of class time. As I say, there's two examples. So the h5p.org one is a great one to look at, but also we've developed stuff for MTU Cork already using H5P. The COVID return to work one for staff and for students was something that would have had some of those. If I show you an example, here is a page with H5P content in it. So we have kind of standard content here that you can edit with your rich content editor inside in Canvas. But then I suppose the thing is with H5P is that you can have your activities or your layouts within the context of your learning content. So we have that sort of typical almost sandwich layout here where we have content followed by the activity. And here in the activity, from a student's point of view, they take it. But what you do get then is you get reports of these afterwards on your end in terms of drill down reporting, and we'll see that in a minute. If I go to the next one here, there's another example. This is a layout content type, and that's basically an accordion that allows you to present content in that format. As I say, there are tons and tons of different interactions you can create, and the best place maybe to see them in action is in here. And as I say, if not only for layout, but also if you're looking at the pre-training knowledge checking side of things, questionnaires, memory games, etc. They're really nice interactions just to add that bit of interactivity into your module. So the next thing I'm going to do is just show you basically where H5P is, how to find it. And we're then going to maybe move on to Lauren, my colleague, who will show you the stuff in action and develop a few interactions for you, with you, and we can take some questions afterwards. So one of the first things I suppose to note about H5P, it's in the integration into Canvas. I'm just going to go to a module in here. And the easiest way, I think, to think of H5P is something that you'll have with existing content, with other content. So you're going to create usually a page. So if I go to my unit and create a page, I can create a new page and just call this demo for the moment. And if I click into that and go to my edit function here, what I get is this icon in the rich text editor, or rich content editor, which is interactive content H5P. If I click on that, that opens up the H5P interface. And this will obviously vary depending on how much stuff you've developed. The thing about H5P is that you can create content, as I say, that's independent of a module that you can pull into other modules. So you can create folders and you can organize your content that way, and then you can pull it in. You can also copy those if you want to, and move them, delete them, etc. So I'm just going to go to add content here. And when I go to add content, I basically get almost like a smaller version of what you saw on the h5p.org site that allows you to search for content types. As I say, there's two types of content types: layout, which are just laying out content, like the accordion one that we just looked at, and then also the activity-based ones, which are more multiple choice, flip cards, dialogue cards, etc. So if you go to search, you can find something there. There is an upload option if you have created H5P elsewhere. So that's useful if you've created H5P on the h5p.org site, but typically I don't think people are going to be going there. But just in case you have, that's a way of migrating your content. I think typically you're going to be going and creating content from scratch. So if we started, for instance, with multiple choice, go to the details, we can find out what that interaction is, what that content type is. We can also go to a content demo, which takes us to that area here on the site that I talked about a minute ago. And then we can use that content type. So if I go to use, that'll give me all the different fields that I need to create a content type interaction within Canvas. I'm not going to go through these because Lauren is going to go through it in a moment, but I will highlight a couple of things that are maybe important. One of the things is just adding useful metadata or descriptive information to your interactions. So a title, a meaningful title, instructions where necessary. I suppose the other thing is, like you would do when you're creating a multiple choice quiz in Canvas, in the new quizzes tool, You know, it's all about adding context. So the more context you can give your students or your learners, obviously, the better experience for them. So good titling, good descriptions, and metadata. And also, then within each of the content types or interactions, you're going to see lots of different fields that you can change. So you have display options, which display copyright, etc. Publishing, which allows you to publish or unpublish if you want to just kind of draft something and then maybe publish it later on, like you would in Canvas almost. You have the ability to create a piece of content that's available outside of Canvas as well. So that is in a situation where you might want to create a piece of content, an interaction that you might want to share on a website or share on another learning management system. If you're doing a cross institutional collaboration, for example, you might look at something like that. Also, the folder where you're, I suppose, where you're saving that content. So if you're saving content to folders, you can also add collaborators. So you can add other people within M2 Cork as collaborators and edit and co-edit your interactions. You can pick a folder to share content. And then the LTI settings, you don't really need to worry about these. If you did want to change the max width, so if you wanted your content to be narrower than what it is in the interface, you could do so here. But by default, as H5P is responsive, all of the content basically populates the width of the screen at any one time. So if you were on desktop or if you were on mobile, it will actually respond and it will just resize itself depending on the platform you're on. Okay, so that's that, I suppose. Just a couple of things in terms of clear, or just tips. You can use clear language, I just mentioned. So just using a bit of language to set the context is good. Make it relevant to their learning. So I suppose at the moment, maybe a lot of you are thinking, where can I use H5P in my existing learning content in my module? I suppose the answer is you can get going right away. You could get going with something as simple as a knowledge check, for example, that asks the student maybe what their previous knowledge of something is. It could be something as simple as a multiple choice, but I think we have multiple choice in something like the quizzes tool. I think you get a lot more interactive and engaging interactions. Some stuff that Lauren will show you there in a minute, actually. So I think maybe just my initial tip would be start small, develop maybe individual interactions that you get your students to take. And as you'll see with Lauren, you could get going right away with something like a screencast that you've developed and that you might want to add additional interaction or engagement on. Or you could actually pull in video content from YouTube as well and add your own interactions on top of that. So really, H5P is a really, really useful e-learning authoring tool that's embedded within Canvas in the rich content editor, and that you can use basically right away to add extra engagement, extra interaction to your learning content. So I might throw it over to you, Lauren, if it's okay, just to look at part 2, which is authoring some content types in Canvas. Is that okay, Lauren?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'll just jump straight into some demonstration there. So I'll just share my screen. Sorry. So this is the page just had open there a minute ago in our module. So I'll start by going through 2 layout content types, and then we'll do 2 activity ones. So as Shane was just saying there, we go to our unit and we're going to add a new page here. So I'll make a new page. So this will be the dialogue cards. I just want to add that item in there, and then we'll go into the page. We're going to edit. And then so we're obviously in our rich content editor again. So as Shane just kind of went through, we want to go to our apps. We have the H5P here. So we want to add our new content in. And so as Shane just kind of went through there, we want to look for whatever interaction we want. So I'm looking for dialogue cards, this first layout content type that I'm going to do. So yeah, I'm just going to add my first heading. So these are actually, I've just kind of taken some examples of some interactions that people have asked me to make already. So these have been used in modules. So the mode we're going to keep it as normal, our task description. So for this one, we're going to just show some tips. So these will be like flashcards, and they'll just give you some tips then when people are going through them about plagiarism. So we just put as our text that these are non-intentional plagiarism top tips. So what we want to show on the other side then will be our actual tip. So here it comes up as an answer, because obviously you can use these for question and answers either side of the card too. And you can add an image here as well. So I just have a folder here with my content. So for my cards, I just made a couple of these up for tips. So this image will show on both sides of the card. So that's just something to keep in mind there. So I'll even just add another one quickly there, just to kind of show. So I think I'll keep this one, the headings, as the same, because they're all going to be part of the same content. And for this side, we just have another tip there. So I'm going to add another image. This is my second tip. So once we finish kind of add all that in, we can save it. And this can kind of just give you a quick idea. So we have our heading, our description here, just showing our users what they're going to do. We have our heading on the side, our tip one, and when we turn it over, we still see our tip one, and this time we have the tip. So you can make as many of these cards as you need to then, and they can have different types of information on them. Like I said, you can have the question on one side and an answer on the other. So once we're finished with that, then we can insert it in there. We can see it just getting added to the rich content editor. We just want to make sure that we save it then here as well. So when someone comes into our module, this is what it'll look like. Sorry. So I'll just bring us back here, and we'll set up a new one then. I'm going to set up a new page. And for our second one, we'll go through the image hotspots. So I'll just name this new page. Just going back into edit, and once we get our rich content editor again, we're just going to go back into H5P. We want to add some new content, and we want this one to be an image hotspot. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to add our background image, first thing we want to do is we want to add our title. So we'll just call this image hotspots H5P training. Obviously, as Shane said, we want these to be meaningful titles, so I'm just giving a quick title for the demonstration purposes. So I'm going to go back into my H5P content there. So I have my hotspot image here. So again, this is just kind of a interaction that our graphic designer created for somebody, and we're going to add some hotspots to it now. So we want to give it some alternative text as well. So let's call this our hotspot image. So we kind of leave these as set, they are able to change. You can upload your own hotspot icon. For now, I'll just leave it as the pre-designed one. You can change your colors. And so the first thing we want to go on then is we can choose our type of hotspot that we want to pop up. So we can pop up a text, a video, or an image. So for this demonstration, we'll just do a text. So we'll just pop some text in there. So I'm going to pop this hotspot image. Sorry. So this little green dot here is what our hotspot is. So this one is just, this is about our microphone. So I want to add this here. So we can also zoom in like this as well. So I can see I'm adding that little green hotspot there. We can bring it back out, and I'll add another hotspot. So our second one, we'll pop it there on the notes. I'll just grab some text for that. So create notes associated with the export articles, add that there. So yeah, I think the two will probably be enough there for the demonstration. So once we have all our information there and we've chosen our hotspots, you can add as many then obviously as you like. We're going to save it. So when we come back here, then we can see that we have our new hotspots here, and it'll show us the text or the image or the media that we've added in there. So that's just for this example there. So we can also insert that one, and we can save it in there. And again, so this is just what people see when they come on then. I'll just bring us back to the unit tab. So those are our two layout content types. So I'll go through some of the activity content types as well now. So our first one I'm going to go through is I'll do a drag and drop activity here. So this is again something that I was just asked to help create for some modules. So this was for referencing modules. So I'll kind of show you now what way we kind of did it. So the first thing we want to do is go back into our plugins and set up our interaction. We want to find our drag and drop in here. And so once we have it, we'll let it pop in there. So the first thing we want to do is just give our title as always. We can add a background image and we can change your task size and stuff. For now, I'll just leave it and we're going to go into the task tab. So this is where we're going to set up our interactions. So this one is, I'm just going to copy and paste an image here. Wrong image. You know what, I'll just add it in this way here. So we're going to add, just click the little media button there. I'm going to add in an image. And so back to my content here, and for my drag and drop, I'm going to just use this one. So it's just an image of boxes. So I'll just pop boxes in there and then I'm done. So sorry, another thing that I always want to do is I want to just change the opacity to 0, just so there's no background on anything that we're doing. So I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. So this is going to be my background there. So you'll see what I'm doing with it now in a sec. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just add my text. So I'm going to use this text for my title. So I'll just give the exercise name and just a description of what I want them to do. So let's pop that, make that a nice size so it'll fit nice across the top. So obviously I'm just doing these really roughly for you guys, but just so you have an idea. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to populate it with my text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them drag and drop the words with the same meaning, but have different words next to each other. So for this word, I'll have sharp. Again, I'm just going to change this to the opacity to 0. And then so once we have this in, I can even just copy and paste it then, so I don't have to keep changing all the little details straight away. And then so the words I'm going to have in there, it would be sharp, royal, and university. Okay. And then again, so I'm going to copy, these are going to be my draggable words here. So I'm just going to have them over here. And I want people to match the words with the same meaning. So I'm going to change this one to college, this one to rural, and this one to intelligent. Okay, so now we have our words. Sorry. Didn't want that space there. And so next thing we want to do now is we have everything we need in there populated, but we want to add our drop zones. So we want to always label our drop zones too. So I'm going to label, this is going to be where we want college to go. We don't want to show the label and we want to make sure that the opacity is at 0. And so now we just have this box here. So where I want college to be dropped, I'm going to pop that there because that's what I've given the label. I'm going to just make a copy and paste of this here. And so I want this one to be intelligent. And I want this box to be for girl. And then our final step that we have to do, well, sorry, 2 more steps. We want to select all of these. So what I'm doing there is I'm clicking the words on the outside, the ones that are my draggable words, and I'm selecting the 3 of these. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons, but one of the main reasons is that when I go to drag this word, it will highlight the droppable areas. And if I only have the one droppable area selected, it will only highlight that box. So it'll be too easy, but you'll know that'll be easier to show you now in a second. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is my label. Sorry, I don't know if you've seen that there. I'll just go back. So I'm going for the label for sharp here. So now I just want to make sure that I'm giving it with the correct elements. So I want to match that one to intelligent. For university, I want to match this one to college because that's the correct one. And for broil, I want to match this one to grill because that's the select one. That's the correct one, sorry. So once we have all this populated, it should be good to go now. So I'm going to go and save it. And so we want to drag them in. So I said when I pick this up now, the 3 areas kind of get highlighted. So if I had only selected one of those boxes, only one of those areas would have been highlighted. So we'll pop these in here. Sorry. And we check that there. And so we can see it's right in there. So sorry, it's in my way. We want to insert that then when we're done. Just let it load up for a second, make sure it's all good, and then we want to save it. Then we have this saved in here. So I'll just go on to the last quick example I'm going to give, and then I will go ahead and show you the interactive book, which is a nice way of tying them all together. Whatever interaction types you've created, you can kind of make like a course by using the interactive book. So the last thing I'm going to do, I'll show you, is the documentation tool. I'll add this one in here. Add our new content. And so we're going to go to our documentation tool. So we need a title. So I'll just put a quick title in there, documentation tool example. And it's okay just for now, our documentation tool. So what we want to do then is we have these elements and we can create different types of pages. So the first one I'm going to create here is just a standard page. So the beauty of this tool is you can give the students input fields and so they can actually just quickly create a document and submit it then. So this kind of works nicely for project ideas and proposals and things like that. So the first thing I'm going to do up there, so I've got my standard page. So just be creating a standard page. And then so we have some options here. We can add some text. And we can put an input field or we can add an image. So if I'm putting a text, I just kind of want to give a description of what I want them to do. So fill in the form, export, create document. You could say something like fill in all the information for your proposal. And then once we're done, then we can add that element. The next thing then we can add, so this will go underneath it, but on the same little tab up here. So the next thing we want to do then is we can do an input field here. So description of what we want the user to put in. So we could say full name, a placeholder text. So just what you'll see kind of grayed out in the box there. So just put your name. We can put a maximum length and we can choose between 1 line, 3 lines and 10 lines. So for their name, 1 line I think is fine. I'll do another element there. I'll put in another text field and I want this one to be their title of their project. So title, this will just come up grayed out. Their title might be long, so maybe 3 lines for that one. Could just do one more with project description. Just pop that in there, project description, and then probably 10 lines we'd need for that one. So once we have this will be our first kind of click-through page. And then, so I'm going to create another one then. So another type of page. So I won't do a standard this time. I can do a goals page as another option there. So we have a goal. This one kind of comes automatically filled out, but obviously for best practice to fill it out using all of your own content there. So I'll just add it there. Basically, we're just asking the user to fill in some goals, insert some goals they've chosen. And so I'll just go here. And then so then the last thing we can do, we have a goals assessment page too. It won't really work to show you now because I won't be inserting any goals or watching the assessment, but it's a nice little tool to have. Our document export page. So we need to put that in there. So this is how they're going to export it. So this document export page is fine. Again, this is all kind of auto-filled for me, but you should just go through and make sure that it's all relevant. So once we go to our save, so this is our content that we've just created. So fill in the form, export your document. So if I just go to fill it in, title. And so when I click the next blue arrow, I go to the next page we created, which is to add our goals. So I can add my goals in there. Go to and go to the next arrow. And so then we can just click here to create our actual document. So as you can see here, I've got my document title, name, name of the project, and whatever I've filled in there. And so another thing we can do is the student then, once they do it, will submit it. And then they can export it as well. And it downloads here just as a Word document. So something else that we were going to show you, I think I'll just go into it now, is the reporting. So it's the drill down reporting. So if let's just go here to one that I made yesterday, and I just asked one of my colleagues to test for me. When I go into the page, so this is exactly like the one I've just made with tools export. I have my edit button here as always, and beside it I have my reports. So I can see my own name and my colleague's name. So if I click into his details, I can see the start time, the end time, obviously his name, and then I have the answers or the document that he's filled out. So here's kind of the information he's given with defined goals there as well. And so this is something you can do on any of the interactions that are interactive, such as the questions, drag and drop. So here's, or drag and drop, sorry. So here's just another quick example. Let's go back into the page that I made yet, this one that I've made yesterday, which is similar to one I made now. I can go to reports. There's Niall's name again. And so I can see here that his start time, his end time, how long he spent doing it, and his total score. So Niall obviously very quickly finished it here, and I can see that he got them all right. So this is a really nice tool to kind of keep an eye on things and keep your reports all in one place too. And so the last thing then, I think we'll just go through is, sorry, it's always in my way. Let's cancel this. We're going to do a book. So this is our interactive book. So just kind of, just as I said, this is the one that'll tie them all together really nicely. You can use to develop courses and things like that. So I'll add a new content type here, and I'm going to use the interactive book. So I'll just give it a quick title there. And so these columns here on our side, these would be our pages. So I'm going to rename this one here to page 1. Right there. And so I'm going to start by making a course presentation. So as I said, there's loads here that we can choose from to add into the book. So as I said, it works really nicely to have them all in one place. Such as a course. So the first thing I'm going to do is course presentation, which is exactly like a presentation that you'd see on Google Slides or PowerPoint. So this, I'm just going to use some images here from a presentation that one of my colleagues gave the other day. And so you can see you can just really nicely put together quick slides just by having everything there ready to go. You can add your new slides here, you can move them backwards and forwards, and you can add some limited interactions in the slides too. So I'll just pop this down here. So this presentation was also done on video. So something I can do here is I can use some of the options here. So it's just quickly to go through. Starting this side, we can add some text to our presentations, links, images, shapes, video, and then some kind of more interactive fill in the blanks, single set choice, multiple choice, true or false, drag and drop. And then some here we have some really interactive kind of more fun ones. So we got the mark the words, dialogue cards, continuous text, things like this, the drag text. So just to add something in there, I can add in the link to our original, to the original training video. Sorry. And there we go. So once we put in our YouTube video, it'll just automatically kind of pull in that, this for our link, it'll just bring us to the YouTube page. Then there's also ways to embed the video in it as well, but you can kind of just have it as one of the slides. And so it really just depends on what you're looking to do. So this can just give us our link here, and like that, we can just pop that in the corner or wherever we like it to go. And then on the new slides, then if I wanted to add a fill in the blank, it's kind of just the same as the other interactions I've been showing you. You can just go through and fill them in. It kind of, anything that you need to know, it'll give you this important instructions in the yellow box. And like that, you can always go back and check on the actual page what one would be the best interaction for you, or check out the examples there on the H5P website. So I've just added another page there. So I'm going to call this one our page 2. And so on this one, we'll just do something, say, simple. We'll do a multiple choice question. So this video that we've been watching was kind of on good design in Canvas. So this will say a question that I've pulled out. So which of these is not a characteristic of a good modern presentation? So we literally just come in and add our options here. So we had our first option is consistent. Our second option is visually rich. We can add as many options as we want then. So I've just added third one there, and our third one's going to be length, and this is the one that's incorrect, but our correct answer. Once we have that done then, I'll just add a third page there, just kind of give you a better feel of how we can work. So for this one like that, we can use image hotspots. So that's one that I've just gone through there a minute ago. And I actually have an image hotspot here that this is related to the video, to the course presentation and the video. That's all related to this book. So I'm keeping everything on the one topic, and it just allows me to have some multiple interactions all together. So I'm going to keep all of my predefined stuff there. So I've got my first hotspot position. So I'll zoom in on that there, and I want to show the plug. So the plug is how we add our apps. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll add a text. Again, it could add a video or an image too. So we have this in here. I have add plugins. I'll just add one more hotspot there. So say this is our media. I'm going to make that a text too. I'll just say media. So once we're happy with that then, so that's this page done. Oh, sorry, I never named this one, page 3. And so our last one then, I'll just do a page 4. So I think for this one, I'll very quickly do an interactive video. So this Shane was kind of talking about earlier. He was saying if you wanted to do a screencast or something like that, this would be a really good way to use it, or you can pull in some YouTube videos. So what you can do here is you can just click your YouTube, click the video button. You can upload your own video there, or you can just pull one from YouTube. So it's totally your own choice. Again, this is the one that we have been using throughout this video, the one about design on Canvas. So once you have it, you just go to your add interactions there. And so you can just add some of them in there. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to go to my behavioral settings there, and I don't want the video to start at the start, because it took a couple of minutes to get everything ready. So it took 3 minutes precisely. So I want this video to start at 3 minutes. Another thing then you can click is there's some options there, autoplay, loop, things like that. And so we can add many interactions into this video. So just again, to get an idea.
First item.
If we wanted to just pop here, then we could add in a multiple choice question here, you know. So something kind of to take into account here is you can have them pop up as a button, or you can have them pop up as a poster. And another thing is it kind of automatically displays them for a certain time, and you can have the option to pause the video. So one of the things that I like to do, I'll just keep that nice and round. I like to keep this at the same, or literally only like barely a second later. And then I want to click the pause video button. So this means that the interaction will stop the video. They can answer the question, and I'm going to just actually put this back to the same one, so that when I answer the question, it'll disappear straight away. It won't stay on my screen for that extra couple of seconds or second or anything. So a button means it'll literally come up as a little circle, and you want the student to press that, but I, for this, prefer to have it for a poster. So multiple choice question. And so then we have our options. We'll put 1 as correct, or 2. So once we're done with this, then we can size this so we can see it, and we'll have it nice in the middle of the screen, so that when we get to this interaction, it'll pause the whole video and this will pop up so they won't miss it. Another thing then is each interaction that you add in will give you a nice little circle here at the bottom, so you can keep track of where they are. So if I wanted to pop another interaction here, so trying to think of an easy one. So like that, you can even put in some hotspots again, mark the words, drag and drop, fill in the blank, true or false. And again, you'll just pop in your information, put it as a poster all the time, and make sure that you check your display time. When you go to notice it anyway, it'll just stay up on the screen. So you'll most likely notice it when you're checking back before you publish. So I'm just going to save that there, just kind of give you a look at how the interactive book looks all together. Okay, I'll just insert it to give us a full view there and save. So this is our interactive book. So we got our first page, which is our presentation. So obviously I just stopped at 3 there for you guys. So that was just one that I put in the automatic for me because I didn't finish it. So this was just the example they gave. And then you pop in your answer and give it a check. Once we're gone through that, we go to our next one. So which of these is not a characteristic? Length is my answer. I can check it. And then we have our image hotspots on the 3rd page. So we can lick them there and we can see our hotspots as normally. And then we have our interactive video at the end. So if I click play, this should start at
You're very welcome to the session
I bring it
in Canvas, where all of the principles that I've listed here, the landing page, example in students, put items in create a new page, the built-in styling for the pages, and I create a new page list to maybe talk about some of the items inside in this list. So
so there we go. You can see that it stopped the video completely. This is my question. I have a chance to click it, check it, and I can play
first item.
Then,
if I go into pages and I create a new page.
So that's just a couple of interaction types that you can do. I hope you found that helpful. Shane, I'll pass it back over to you.
Super. Thanks very much for that, Lauren. That was excellent. So I guess, you've got maybe quite a lot in a sort of a whistle-stop tour there for using H5P. If we recap, I suppose we looked at a few specific interaction or content types there with Lauren. Lauren covered 2 activity and 2 layout content types, but the important thing to note, I suppose, is that you have a lot more available to you. If you're looking at sort of gettable things for you at the moment, I think, the interactive video component is a really nice one because you can basically use any video that you have available to you on YouTube or import something that you've created yourself. Also, that documentation tool is really useful for gathering sort of structured information. So Lauren showed you an example there, but that could equally be any sort of a form-based interface. Our colleagues in careers use it, for example, to model a sample CV, and then students can import or export the content. If you thought about it, really, you could actually use the documentation tool as a way of structuring a document that the student may submit as an assignment afterwards. That's maybe another way to think about it. Something Lauren also covered there was maybe organizing your content locally. So she was really quickly and efficiently importing content from her desktop there and had different folders for the content, and that was image based stuff and even text based stuff. So the ability then just to have your stuff organized locally is a big help, I suppose, when you're kind of structuring those. Also, I suppose Lauren did show there are 2 different ways of accessing your rich content editor as well. So if I go to pages, I'll just show you here an example. There's this icon here, which it looks like a kind of a plug. And there's also the sort of the apps, the integrations one, which you can bring in others as well. So there's 2 ways at it really. There's that icon and there's the interactive content H5P. And all the time it's going to be available to you wherever you have the rich content editor. So the rich content editor is available in pages, in assignments, in announcements and stuff like that. So it's not just limited to pages. You can use it wherever the rich content editor is available in Canvas. Finally, I suppose the other thing is maybe just think about the accessibility. Lauren mentioned it, I mentioned it, adding relevant content tags and alternative content is good just for keeping all of our users engaged, including those with hearing impairments, visual impairments, etc. Finally, I suppose just to point you to a few resources. So our help center has a specific area on H5P. If you go to that URL, it'll actually take you to basically a more elaborated version of everything that Lauren did today. Lauren would have authored these articles as well, and they go through each of the different layout and activity content types in a lot more detail there as well. So they're worth a look.